My rich uncle found out I was living in my car while working two jobs to pay for college and my cousins. My name's Emma. I'm 19. And if you told me a year ago I'd be sleeping in the back seat of my rusted Toyota with a bag of dirty clothes as a pillow, I would have laughed. I used to think rock bottom was failing a math quiz or forgetting to charge my phone before school. Turns out, rock bottom smells like gasoline, dryer lint, and cold metal. It started with my dad dying, pancreatic cancer, one of those cruel, fast-moving kinds that don't give you time to process anything. One day he was grilling burgers in the backyard. The next he couldn't keep food down. I was 14. He was my best friend, my anchor, my person. When he went, it was like someone unplugged the world. Mom didn't handle it well. At least that's what I told myself. She said she needed to feel alive again. Enter Derek, 40-something tan, teeth too white, the kind of guy who says sweetheart to waitresses. He started taking her on trips, buying her things. I thought maybe that meant she'd be happy again. Then one day, she handed me a plane ticket to Chicago and said, "You'll love living with Aunt Lisa." Like it was summer camp. Aunt Lisa greeted me with this smile that didn't reach her eyes. Her house smelled like money and bleach. She had 2 kids, Rebecca and Michael, who used to be my best friends when we were little. They hugged me at the door, all fake sweetness, and within a week were calling me basement girl. Lisa made me pay rent. I was 16. "Everyone contributes in this house," and she said, sliding me a handwritten note with a dollar amount that made my stomach drop. When I told Mom, she said, "Well, you're learning responsibility." Right, responsibility for being unwanted. So I worked. First at a grimy 24-hour laundromat, midnight shifts, then at a gas station after school. I'd come home smelling like detergent and diesel. Rebecca would wrinkle her nose, say, "It's kind of tragic, and laugh. Michael once accidentally dumped a Slurpee on my shoes while his friends recorded it. The video made it to TikTok, captioned "Basement Cinderella cleans up again." Aunt Lisa saw it. She didn't stop them, just raised my rent again for utilities. I tried to save, stuffing cash into an old teddy bear Dad gave me, my tiny act of rebellion. One night, I came home from the gas station and found the bear ripped open, the money gone. Rebecca swore she didn't know what happened, smiling with that same fake innocence from years ago. I lost it, screamed until my throat hurt. Aunt Lisa called me ungrateful and said if I didn't like the rules, I could leave. So I did, packed what I could fit in the Toyota, grabbed my uniforms, and drove off into the Chicago night. Parked behind the laundromat where no one would bother me. That first night, wrapped in 3 hoodies and a blanket from Lost and Found, I looked out the fogged window and whispered to myself, "You're free now." I almost believed it. Freedom didn't last long. Turns out sleeping in a car sounds romantic, only in songs. In real life, it's freezing, smelly, and loud. Every noise jolted me awake. The scrape of garbage cans, the low rumble of trucks, some drunk yelling in the alley. My bed was the driver's seat, reclined all the way back, my backpack for a pillow. The laundromat's neon sign flickered all night like it was mocking me. I kept working both jobs. 6 hours at the gas station, 6 at the laundromat. My whole life fit into the trunk. A duffel bag of clothes, a few notebooks, and a photo of Dad from when he still looked strong. I taped it to the dashboard, right where the air freshener used to hang. Some nights I'd just stare at it until my eyes burned. At school, I pretended everything was fine. I showered in the laundromat's staff bathroom before sunrise, braided my hair in the mirror above the folding tables, brushed my teeth over a utility sink that smelled like bleach. I learned to keep my head down, to act like I wasn't dying inside. Then came the TikToks. Michael, the same cousin who dumped chips on the floor at my gas station, found me one night. I guess he followed me after my shift. Next day, there it was online. A video titled "My Homeless Cousin's Luxury Apartment, Toyota Edition." Clips of me sleeping in the car, studying by the glow of the laundromat sign, changing shirts in the backseat. Thousands of views, laughing emojis, comments like, "She's living the minimalist dream, lol." I wanted to disappear. When I showed up for work that night, Jerry, the old man who owned the laundromat, handed me coffee and just said quietly, "You okay, kid?" I couldn't answer. If I spoke, I would have cried. That's when I first noticed the black SUV, parked across the street, same spot, every night, windows tinted, engine running. I thought maybe cops were checking on me, or worse, creeps watching a girl alone. But whoever it was never got out. Winter came early that year, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones. My car heater barely worked. You had to kick the dashboard twice before it sputtered warm air. One night, it didn't start at all. I sat there, breath fogging the air, fingers numb, whispering, "Just one more week, just one more." I was halfway to falling asleep for good when I heard a knock on the window. It was Uncle Marcus, Lisa's husband, standing there in a thick wool coat, snow swirling around him. For a second, I thought I was hallucinating. He looked at me, calm, serious, like he'd been expecting this moment. "Emma," he said, voice steady, "we need to talk." And that's when everything started to change. I didn't even open the door at first. My body went stiff, like if I didn't move, he'd vanish. Uncle Marcus was supposed to be this distant, untouchable guy. The one who signed checks, hosted charity galas, and never showed up at family dinners. Not the kind of person who found his niece half frozen in a parking lot at 2 a.m. But he didn't leave. just stood there in the snow, hands in his coat pockets, watching me the way Dad used to when I was caught sneaking cookies before dinner, disappointed but not angry. I finally cracked the window. "What are you doing here?" I whispered, voice shaking. He tilted his head toward the laundromat. "My office has better heating." I blinked. "You have an office here?" He nodded. "Upstairs. Been mine for years." I didn't understand, but my hands were too numb to argue. He opened the passenger door, helped me out like I was made of glass, and led me into the building. We went through a side door I'd never noticed, up a narrow metal staircase to a small office above the laundromat. It was warm, almost too warm. There was a desk, a couch, a coffee maker, and a small bathroom. "Sit," he said gently. "You look like you're about to fall over." He handed me a steaming cup of coffee and waited while I wrapped my hands around it. For a long minute, neither of us spoke. The hum of the dryer downstairs filled the silence. Finally, he said, "You know, your dad and I used to sleep in a van once." I almost dropped the cup. "What?" He smiled, small and sad. "Yeah, when we were about your age. Our mom was working 3 jobs. Sometimes the lights got cut off. We parked behind the same building back when it was run by an old guy named Mr. Feldman. He used to let us stay inside during storms, help fix the washers to earn food money. When he got sick, he sold the place to me for next to nothing. This laundromat was my start." I couldn't speak. I'd spent years thinking Uncle Marcus was born rich, living in that perfect Lincoln Park house, with my aunt's fake smile and her designer everything. He looked right at me. "Your dad made me promise 2 things when he got sick: to watch over you, and to make sure you learned to watch over yourself." He paused, his voice catching slightly. "You've done that, Emma. I've been keeping an eye on you for months. The camera's here. I saw you fixing the coin machine, staying late to clean up. You remind me of him." He pulled a small silver key from his pocket and slid it across the desk. "There's a studio apartment above this office. It's yours now. No rent. As long as you keep working and stay in school." I just stared at the key, trembling. "Why are you doing this for me?" He smiled faintly. "Because you've already proven you don't need saving. Just a chance." For the first time in months, I slept in a real bed. Warm, safe, and, for a fleeting second, happy. But I had no idea the storm that was about to hit next. The first morning I woke up in that tiny studio above the laundromat, sunlight streamed through the cracked blinds, and for a second I didn't recognize the feeling in my chest. Safety. It was small, just one room with a kitchenette, a creaky bed, and a leaky faucet, but it was mine. I made instant coffee, sat cross-legged on the floor, and cried until my chest ached. Then my phone started blowing up, dozens of missed calls from Aunt Lisa, a wall of angry texts. Aunt Lisa: "How dare you manipulate Marcus?" Aunt Lisa: "You're lying to him. He's not stupid." Aunt Lisa: "I'll tell him everything if you don't move out now." Apparently, Michael had seen me coming down from the apartment that morning and told his mom. Of course he did. He couldn't mind his own business if his life depended on it. By noon, Aunt Lisa herself stormed into the laundromat. Designer leggings, fur-trimmed coat, and that trademark superiority that could curdle milk. She spotted me folding towels and stomped across the tile like she owned the place. "What kind of disgusting stunt are you pulling?" she hissed, loud enough for customers to turn and stare. "Moving in upstairs? Throwing yourself at my husband?" I froze. "Excuse me?" "Oh, don't play innocent. You've been scheming since the day you got here. Poor, helpless little Emma, just waiting for a rich man to rescue her." Her voice cracked mid-sentence, that high-pitched wobble of someone who knows they're losing control. Jerry came out from the back room, but before he could say anything, she swept a pile of folded laundry off the counter, clothes scattering across the floor. "Get out of my family's life," she shrieked. "You don't belong here." I didn't yell back. I just stood there, shaking, as Jerry calmly told her to leave before he called the police. She stormed out, muttering curses under her breath, but the damage was done. My hands were trembling so badly I couldn't fold another towel. That night I heard arguing upstairs, Marcus's voice low and steady, hers breaking, then slamming doors. The whole building seemed to vibrate with it. The next morning Marcus showed up at my door, dark circles under his eyes. "Ignore her," he said quietly. "She's not handling things well." I wanted to ask what that meant, but his expression said not now. 2 days later, my mom called out of nowhere. "Honey, I'm hearing some disturbing things about you and your uncle," she said in that syrupy, fake concerned tone I hated. Before I could respond, she added, "You know people are talking, right? You need to be careful how things look. How things look, not how I am." That's when something inside me snapped. All those years of swallowing insults, of being everyone's burden, everyone's punchline. It all caught fire at once. I realized I didn't have to keep taking it. Not from Aunt Lisa, not from my mom, not from anyone. And I swear, that was the exact moment I decided, if they wanted drama, I'd give them a show they'd never forget. When Mom and Derek showed up at my apartment, it was like a bad dream come to life. I hadn't even given them the address. Marcus must have mentioned it in passing. But there they were, knocking on my door like they owned the place. Mom in one of her expensive beige pantsuits, Derek standing behind her, looking bored and uncomfortable, as if poverty might stain his shoes. "Emma," she started, her voice all soft and patronizing. "Sweetheart, this is quaint." She glanced around the little studio, her eyes scanning the chipped counters and second-hand furniture, like she was touring a crime scene. "What do you want, Mom?" I asked, my voice flat. She sighed dramatically and perched on the edge of my bed like it offended her. I just came to talk. I've been hearing things about you and Marcus. You're spending a lot of time with him. People are starting to wonder. I laughed, the kind of bitter laugh that doesn't sound human. You think I'm what? Sleeping with my uncle? Derek shifted, clearing his throat. Now, nobody's saying that, he said, his tone fake and corporate smooth. We're just concerned about appearances. Your mother, she cares about your future. My future? I snapped. You mean the one she threw away when she sent me to Aunt Lisa's basement? Or the one she ignored while I was working 2 jobs and living in my car? Mom flinched, then her mask cracked. Don't be dramatic, Emma. You could have asked for help. I did, I shouted. You just didn't answer the phone. The room fell silent. For a second, all I could hear was my heart pounding in my ears. Then Mom stood, straightening her jacket. You know what? I see what's happening. Marcus always had a soft spot for your father. I suppose he feels guilty, and you're taking advantage. Taking advantage, I repeated. He's the only one who's actually treated me like family. Her expression hardened. Marcus is your father's brother. Anything that belongs to him, his company, his money, it should go to me, not to you. That's when I understood. She wasn't here to check on me. She was terrified that I might get something she couldn't control. Get out, I said. Excuse me? Get out of my apartment. My voice was calm, deadly steady. Go back to your husband and your yacht parties, and tell Aunt Lisa she can stop spreading rumors, because I'm done letting any of you use me as your scapegoat. Mom's face twisted. Anger, shock, embarrassment all at once. You ungrateful little... Door's right there, I interrupted. Derek tugged at her arm. Grace, let's go. They left muttering as they slammed the door behind them. I stood there shaking, but for the first time, it wasn't fear, it was power. I didn't know it yet, but that conversation lit the fuse for everything that came next. Because a few days later, my cousin Michael showed up at the laundromat, pale, shaking, terrified, and said, You need to see what I found on Mom's iPad. And just like that, all hell broke loose. Michael looked like he hadn't slept in days. He was standing in the doorway of the laundromat, clutching Aunt Lisa's iPad like it was radioactive. I'd never seen him scared before. He was always smug, always cruel. Now he was just... broken. Emma, he said, voice shaking, you need to see this. He set the iPad on the counter and started scrolling through messages, dozens of them. Text from someone saved as D. My stomach dropped. Derek. As in my mom's husband. The messages went back months, photos, voice notes, full conversations about meeting in secret. One text from Derek read, Everything's ready for next week. Once Marcus signs the final transfer, we'll be free. I stared at the screen, trying to make sense of it. Free from what? I asked. Michael swallowed hard. From everyone, apparently. They're taking money from Uncle Marcus's business. Millions, Emma. Offshore accounts. Fake invoices. Aunt Lisa's been moving money for him for almost a year. My blood ran cold. The rent Aunt Lisa charged me. The endless excuses about property taxes and utilities going up. All lies, because she was stealing the whole time. Michael rubbed his face. I didn't know what to do. Rebecca found it too. She's at home crying. Mom's been lying to all of us. I didn't even think. I called Marcus. He arrived 20 minutes later, calm but with that hard look in his eyes. The one I'd only seen once before, when he kicked Aunt Lisa out of the laundromat. We showed him everything. He didn't speak for a long time, just stared at the screen, jaw tightening. Finally, he said, We're not calling her yet. We're getting proof. He made some calls. Within hours, his lawyer and a forensic accountant were in his office, combing through business records, tracing accounts, verifying transactions. What they found made my stomach churn. Aunt Lisa and Derek had already stolen nearly $1 million, planning to disappear with over $4 million more. And it wasn't just company money. They drained the college funds Marcus set up for Michael and Rebecca too. Rebecca showed up that night, mascara streaked, holding a duffel bag. She looked at me like she didn't know whether to hug me or cry. Can I stay here? She whispered. She crashed on my futon that night. The same girl, who used to laugh at my thrift store shoes, was now sleeping under my blanket, whispering through tears. I'm sorry for everything. I didn't know. For once, I believed her. Over the next few days, Marcus's team built the case quietly. The FBI got involved when they confirmed offshore transfers, wire fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy. Marcus wanted to catch them in one clean move. We'll do it when they least expect it, he said. And when Aunt Lisa decided to throw Michael's 18th birthday party, complete with DJ, catering, and a rented mini golf course in their backyard, Marcus smiled for the first time in days. That's when we'll end it, he said, in front of everyone. It was poetic in the cruelest way. The perfect show. I just didn't realize how messy it was going to get once the curtain rose. The day of Michael's birthday party felt unreal, like watching a movie you already knew the ending to, but still couldn't look away. Rebecca and I got there early, under the pretense of helping set up. Aunt Lisa was in full Stepford mode, fluttering around the house with a glass of champagne, barking orders at the caterers and laughing too loud. No one would have guessed she was planning to skip the country with her sister's husband the next day. She hugged me at the door, that fake sweet tone back in her voice. Emma, how nice of you to come. I see Marcus is finally sharing some of his success with you. Her words felt like acid. I smiled tightly. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Michael looked pale, avoiding her eyes. Rebecca kept fussing with the decorations just to stay busy. Uncle Marcus arrived last, wearing his usual calm-like armor. You'd never guess he'd spent the last 48 hours coordinating with lawyers and federal agents. He greeted everyone politely, shook Derek's hand, and didn't even flinch when Derek said, "Marcus, my man, glad you could make it." The party started like nothing was wrong. The music played, people laughed, teenagers splashed in the pool. My mom showed up in a designer dress, looking like she hadn't slept. Derek handed her a drink, and the two of them played picture-perfect couple, while sneaking nervous glances at their phones. By 4 o'clock, Marcus gave a nod to the lawyer, who slipped quietly inside with a briefcase. Within minutes, everyone was gathered in the living room. Aunt Lisa looked confused, wine glass in hand. "Marcus, what's going on?" His voice was steady. "Lisa, there are some things we need to discuss. Family business." She laughed uncertainly. "Can't this wait? We're celebrating Michael." "Actually," he said, "that's exactly why it can't." The lawyer opened the briefcase and began laying documents on the coffee table. Bank transfers, fake invoices, screenshots, and finally, a printed transcript of her and Derek's messages. The color drained from her face. What is this?" she stammered. Marcus's tone didn't change. "This is evidence of fraud, of theft, of betrayal." The lawyer hit play on a recording. Derek's voice filled the room, smug and unmistakable. "Lisa, once Marcus signs those transfers, we'll disappear. You and me, baby, they'll never see it coming." The room went silent. Then chaos. Mom's glass shattered on the tile. "Derek, what is this?" she screamed, lunging at him. He backed away, stammering excuses, but she was past reason, swinging her purse, hitting him with every word. "You stole from me, from my daughter, from my family." Aunt Lisa tried to run, but the front door opened before she reached it. 2 agents in plain clothes stepped inside, badges flashing. "Lisa Anderson and Derek Moore," one said. "You're under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy." The look on Lisa's face, pure disbelief. "Marcus," she gasped, "you can't let them—" But he didn't even blink. They cuffed her right there in front of everyone. Derek, too, though he kept babbling about misunderstandings and temporary loans. The neighbors had come out to watch by the time the FBI cars rolled away. Mom sank onto the couch, sobbing into her hands. I didn't touch her. For once, I didn't feel guilty or broken. I just felt done. Marcus turned to me, Rebecca, and Michael. "It's over," he said quietly. But it wasn't, not really. The fallout was just beginning. The weeks after the arrests felt like living through the quiet after a storm, when everything looks normal, but the air still hums with leftover electricity. Aunt Lisa and Derek were denied bail. The FBI froze their accounts, confiscated their passports, and kept digging through every fake company they'd set up. Turns out they'd been laundering money through shell businesses for over a year. $4.3 million. Gone. Mom's world collapsed right alongside theirs. Derek had siphoned most of her assets, too. Every investment she thought he was making was a lie. When his accounts got frozen, hers did too. She lost the house, the cars, everything she built her new identity around. The woman who once refused to answer my calls suddenly had nowhere to go but down. I didn't take any pleasure in that part. Okay, maybe a little, but mostly I felt empty. Years of anger didn't just disappear because karma finally caught up. It was more like, The noise finally stopped. Rebecca and Michael moved into my apartment above the laundromat for a while. 3 people in a tiny studio wasn't ideal, but weirdly, it worked. Rebecca took the futon, Michael claimed the floor, and we made it work, rotating who cooked, who cleaned, who ran late-night snack runs to the gas station. They both got jobs at the laundromat, too. Rebecca learned how to deal with the quirky customers. Michael, turns out, had a knack for fixing machines. The same kid who used to mock me for folding towels was now elbow-deep in dryer parts, grinning like a little kid every time one sputtered back to life. One night, Marcus came upstairs after closing. He looked tired but lighter somehow, like he'd finally exhaled after years of holding his breath. "Your dad would have been proud of you," he said. "Of all of you." We sat there for hours, eating takeout and sharing stories about Dad, about how he and Marcus once lived out of a van, about the old man who owned the laundromat before them, about how this place had always been their start. It hit me then that Marcus hadn't just saved me. He'd kept Dad's promise alive. Mom eventually checked into rehab, not for drugs, but for exhaustion and trauma, as she put it. I visited once. She looked small, worn down. For the first time in years, she didn't try to defend herself. She just whispered, "I'm sorry, baby. I really am." I believed her. Maybe not completely, but enough. 6 months later, Marcus handed me a folder. Inside was a deed, the laundromat, signed over to my name and my cousin's. "You've earned it," he said simply. "Run it together. Make something of it." Now, every morning I open the shop, flip the neon open sign, and breathe in the warm, clean smell of detergent and hope. The same building that once watched me fall apart is now mine. Ours. Sometimes when I'm locking up late at night, I glance at the security cameras and think of Dad. I picture him grinning somewhere, that same crooked smile saying, "Told you, kid, you'd figure it out." And maybe he was right. Because after everything, the betrayal, the humiliation, the freezing nights in that car, I didn't just survive. I built a life out of what they tried to destroy.